Okay, hello everyone. My name is Kevin, and I'd like to welcome you all to our latest NoVeg webinar series episode. Today we are partnering with scenic and lighting designer Greg Hilmer to discuss the all-new Vectorworks Spotlight 2014. Based on the manual of the same name, today's presentation, Light Plot Deconstructed, is a short and easy to follow look at the way Greg uses tools available in Vectorworks Spotlight to create more spectacular shows. Drawing from topics covered in his book, Mr. Hilmer will demonstrate efficient means to work with line weights, symbols, layers, class options, and much more. For those of you who don't know who Greg Hilmer is a scenic and lighting designer whose work has been seen at hundreds of theater, dance, and opera productions across the country. In addition to Mr. Hilmer has also designed galleries, lighting exhibits, convention booths, and stages as well. As an author, he has written about Vectorworks in various industry publications and provided training for professional theaters, businesses, and educational institutions. Mr. Hilmer is a member of United Scenic Artists Local 829, and I'm sure he's very proud of this. And you can visit him at his website at www.hilmerdesign.com. Today's presentation is about 40 minutes long, and afterwards we'll have a brief Q&A where Greg will answer your questions live. So feel free to submit your own to us at any time into the chat window below. But before we get going with today's presentation, here's an overview of what we do at NoVeg. The NoVeg webinar series is brought to you by NoVeg.com. As one of the largest online design software stores, we offer a huge assortment of software solutions that cater to virtually every designer's need. If you are interested in purchasing the digital version of Vectorworks Spotlight 2014, it is available in the United States from us at NoVeg. To learn more about this and the rest of our Vectorworks catalog, you are welcome to call and speak with our sales specialist, Bob Dare. You can reach him by his email address, bob@noveg.com. And of course, today's presentation is presented by Greg Hilmer, and it is about the book Light Plot Deconstructed. The 5th edition is out, and we do have it at our website, and I encourage you guys to check it out. So if you guys want to learn more about Greg's work, check out this book right here. And to get a glimpse at who is changing the world of design one step at a time, please visit NoVeg's very own blog. Every week, our interviews shine a light on those innovators whose work break out from the norm. I do want to mention that answers from your webinar questions will be shared here as well. So for more details, please visit at blog.noveg.com. Secondly, we are currently working hard to revamp our online community for Vectorworks users. At vectorworking.com, catch up on all the latest design discussions and events. Share your war stories and get help from like-minded professionals as well. Well, we want to hear your thoughts, so please check us out today at vectorworking.com. Coming up next week, as part of our Vectorworks month for October, many users are unaware of Vectorworks' built-in BIM capabilities. This upcoming webinar demonstrates with a simple project how quickly one can draw a 2-story building with walls, furniture, to create building plans, sections, and elevations. Many of these concepts are achievable with older versions. However, let Jonathan Pickup of ArchonCAD show you what tweaks and enhancements in Vectorworks Architect 2014 can make for your workflow even faster than before. The webinar is free and will last about an hour, including a Q&A session. So if you want to sign up for this free event, it is available at noveg.com/webinar/90. Last but not least, today's webinar is being recorded live, so if you want to check it out, it will be uploaded and converted, shared on our channels on vimeo.com/noveg and youtube.com as well. And with that said, Greg, are you ready?
Ooh, Greg? Why, sure.
Cool. All right.
Hello?
Hello? Yeah, I gotcha. I will make you the presenter right about now, and for everybody else, the attendees, thank you for joining. Please enjoy.
There we go. Hopefully you guys can see me now. As you mentioned, I'm Greg Hilmer, and what we'll be talking about today actually does deal with sort of issues that are the primary focus sort of Light Plot Deconstructed. 5th edition is the current edition was written for version 2013. I will mention actually that all 5 editions are still available. So if you're using Vectorworks 2010 for some reason, you can go back to, let me count backwards, version 2 maybe, and edition 2, which was written for version 2010, and get information about that. Vectorworks 2014 just came out, about 10 days ago or so. And of course, there will be a 6th edition of Lightplot Deconstructed upcoming here very soon. So having said all that, let's dive right in. One of the things I want to stress actually is what we're going to be headed towards is in fact actually the light plot. The plot is the final output that we're looking to do here. A light plot, of course, is a method of communication between the designer and primarily the master electrician, but also any others on the production team. So it is a very specific kind of drafting to make that happen. As such, it is primarily a two-dimensional drawing. And while Vectorworks certainly deals with three-dimensional space, and we'll talk a little bit about how that works in using some of the tools, it is important to recognize actually that at the end of the day, in fact, be the two-dimensional drawing is as seen here. The other thing I'm going to mention today, actually, to start with, is we're not going to spend a lot of time today talking about basic sort of Vectorworks stuff. I will point out that workspaces and so forth, including menus. You might notice I've got my own menu and different menus, and have rearranged some of the menus across the top here. Your workspace, including menus and toolbars, tool palettes, are completely customizable and can be arranged any way that you want to do that. I'm obviously using a Macintosh here. What that means is actually most of my palettes remain free floating. I've got some of them collapsed up here at the top. But unlike the main difference between the Mac version and the Windows version is that, in fact, in a Windows version you can dock the palettes into the window. On the Mac version, all of the palettes will stay free floating. So all of that said, let's dive in. So to get to the plot at the end of the process, we need to actually start at the beginning. And for me, actually, the beginning is the theater only. What you just saw me do actually was use a saved view to set a particular set of layers and classes so that I see only at this point what I want to see. Layers and classes are the two sort of main organizational features, if you will, used in Vectorworks. Thinking about layers, I of course learned to draft in ye old days using pen and pencil and so forth and so on, and drafting machine and parallels and rulers, all done by hand. And back in ye old days, we would actually draw on a sheet of vellum and start with, for example, the theater architecture as you see here, drawn onto a piece of vellum, and then we might slap a second piece on top and draw positions or something like that. The third piece on top might be the scenery or whatever, when we can rearrange those pieces of vellum into a stack on our drafting board and continue to draw on different layers. And then at the end of the day, we'd actually slap a clean sheet of vellum on top of that and trace up what we wanted to save, what we wanted to communicate, and that top sheet of vellum would be what we pulled off and ran off to the blue line machine with. For me, layers in Vectorworks actually work very much the same way. There are a set of what are called design layers and a set of sheet layers. And for me, I use the design layers just like those sheets of vellum. Right now, for example, you can see that the theater architecture layer is the only layer that's active, and the architecture is actually drawn on that particular layer. As we go through the process, other sheets of vellum will be added to the stack, and then at the end of the process, actually, we will then copy those, copy what we want to print up onto sheet layers, the actual pieces of, which will allow us to print then onto actual pieces of paper, or these days mainly as a PDF, that we're going to distribute with the information on it. Use them as the communication. Now, layers are actually in scale, even if the scale is 1-to-1. The scale, frankly, does not make any difference at all until you go to print. So generally, I don't mess with scale. I will, at this point, I will say actually that I tend to like to draw in either 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch scale on my drawing. So all of my layers are set up primarily in 1/2 inch scale to begin with. I find it's easier, for example, if I'm adding text and so forth, that I can see real relationship, the size of text to the symbols and so forth. So I tend to draw in scale, but we'll actually, when we print, that's the only place that scale really matters. So classes are the other organizational feature that we have. I use classes primarily to control graphic attributes and to control visibility. So, for example, if in fact I draw a rectangle on my screen, I can actually use the attributes palette to change its color, change the line weight as needed for a particular object. The advantage of actually allowing classes to control those attributes is that if I get a whole bunch of objects that have the same attributes and decide I want to change them all, using classes to control that means I can change those attributes once, and every object that's in that class updates, as opposed to having to go to each and every one of those objects and change it from turquoise to white, for example, and from a 0.7 line down to a 0.5 line individually. So by actually allowing those to be controlled by class, then I can control all of those very easily. And classes can be turned on and off so that they are visible or not visible. Layers can be turned on and off as well. With a layer, if you make it invisible, of course, you're just pulling it off of the drafting board and setting it aside. All of the information that's on that layer is still there, and you can slide it back in at any point in time. Classes work across all layers. So if you make a particular class invisible, for example, every object that's in that class will, in fact, be invisible across all layers. So those give us sort of very nice control of a lot of the graphic attributes. So, and actually, it's worth mentioning one of the neat new features in Vectorworks 2014 is that now from the object information palette we can create straight from the palette new classes and/or new layers, which is a new feature in 2014 that will make working with classes and layers actually a whole lot easier and better. So, all right, so let's get rid of this triangle. Bye, and look at our theater here again. This is a two-dimensional representation. This actually came in as a DWG, as I recall. Was sent to me by the production manager, and was transferred in, basically copied and pasted into a Vectorworks document. Vectorworks can easily import DWG and DXF files without any issue at all. A bunch of parameters that do need to be set and dealt with, since there are differing ways that folks using DWGs work. But the import sort of feature is very robust and has been improved also in 2014. New in 2014 actually is, rather than importing information like the floor plan here, for example, or the floor plan of the theater, there is now an option to reference a DWG or DXF file, which will allow, like referencing a Vectorworks document, will bring in the graphic information into the document that we're working on, but not bring in all of the, for example, classes and that sort of thing that you may or may not want in your document. The other advantage of referencing is it can be set as a live function. So, in other words, if the Scenic Designer, for example, is still working on the set design, and you're referencing that into your drawing, if the Scenic Designer makes changes, those changes are actually reflected via the referencing right into your drawing as well. So certainly there are some real advantages to being able to reference as opposed to import, which is a nice new feature. Mentioned before, this is a two-dimensional representation here. Vectorworks deals with two-dimensional information sort of in two ways. You can have two-dimensional objects be either a screen object, which means they are always sort of stuck to the screen, if you will, or they can be layer plane objects, which means that they will respond to changes in layers. So, for example, if we go to a three-dimensional view of this space, you can see that actually this is now, we're looking at this in the right isometric. All of these are layer plane objects, so they look as if they're laying down on the floor, which if I put my grid back in here, you can see sort of the floor. So, you know, having these actually be layer plane objects as opposed to stuck to the screen does allow us to sort of see the space in 3 dimensions and to start to interact with the space also in 3 dimensions. And if we need to and want to, we can actually very easily change these from a 2-dimensional object into 3-dimensional situations. So if I grab the push-pull tool, for example, click on this and pull this up, I'm going to tab into my HUD, tell that this is 18 feet tall, and we've just created that 3-dimensional object there. I can grab this, say make that the same height as this, grab this over here, there we go, and make that the same height. So we can very quickly actually turn this from a 2-dimensional drawing into a 3-dimensional drawing very easily. So, which will become very useful to us actually later on. And I'm just going to actually undo all those operations so we go back to where we were. One of the problems. Let's do this again. One of the problems that happens is this is now a 3-dimensional object. If we go back to our just 2-dimensional view, you can see actually that the visual of that has actually changed and is not something that that I would necessarily want in my 2-dimensional version of the plot. One of the nice things actually that came in Vectorworks 2013 actually is the ability to change this into an auto hybrid object, which will give us, if I go to the Spotlight menu, let's see, it's under Architectural, and create Auto Hybrid, and it just actually, this is still a 3-dimensional object, but if we go back to our 2-dimensional view here, it's now being displayed actually using the 2-dimensional graphic attributes and so forth and so on, all of which actually can be controlled via the object info palette and changed to be as we like it. So that too is actually a really nice change that actually I can see making huge difference going forward in the way that that information like this is dealt with and played with. So let's turn that back into our 2-dimensional object and go back to here. So now I've got the theater all set. The next thing I'm going to want to do is to import the scenery. And again, we have several ways that we can import information. We can import a PDF into the thing. It depends on, if that's the way that our Scenic Designer is sending us plans. With a PDF, actually, snap cues and sort of information still works. You can see my cursor here snapping and giving me information about things on there. That does work when you import a PDF. We can, with a PDF also, if it was created in the right way, we can actually explode a PDF and get down to the core geometry and use that, which will then allow us actually to create three-dimensional space out of that as well. We can import images. So there was a designer I worked with, a scenic designer I worked with for quite some time that still draws by hand, still drafts everything by hand. So actually, you know, I could, when he sent stuff, I'd scan it or take a picture of it, turn it into a JPEG, and import that into to use in the drawings as well. So there are several ways actually that that can all come. Luckily, the designer I was working with on this particular project also used Vectorworks, so it was very easy for me to import his work. And what you just saw me do, again, I just used a saved view here to change the different, change to a different layer and class scheme. So right now, for example, we're looking at the theater architecture sheet is on the drawing table. The flies sheet is on the drawing table. Floor plan mask sheet of vellum is there. And the Othello ground plan sheet is also on is now back on the drawing board. Okay. And again, I'll point out these are actually all two-dimensional operations, so we can see the two-dimensional nature of things here. Oh my goodness, why is my theater still in one direction and all of my scenery and so forth in the other? And that is actually because a unified view is turned off. If we turn the unified view actually on, then layers will stay in the same relationship to each other as we're moving back and forth between the two-dimensional and three-dimensional sort of situations. So, so lots of ways that we can actually import the scenery and get information about the theater and the scenery then into our space. Okay. So now with the scenery here and the theater there and so forth, we're ready to start thinking about the lighting. I generally start thinking about focus areas. So if this is all the playing space, then how am I going to light this space in terms of the action of the play and the scenery in using the physical characteristics of the lighting instruments and so forth. We can only light a certain sort of chunk of space with each lighting instrument. And we usually define that as a focus area, where an instrument is actually focused to. So, so I'd be looking at, for example, the width of the proscenium and the width of the playing space here, trying to decide what sort of size chunks of space I like. Generally speaking, I make them anywhere from 6 feet to 8 feet. And, so I might plan out, well, let's see, if I can draw a 6 foot by 8 foot space in here. Again, I'm just tabbing into my heads-up display there and specifying a particular size. I just made that an 8 foot by 8 foot rectangle. I could change that if I wanted to here in the object information palette. In this case, actually, I'm going to change its class to be a draft tech, and you can see what that does actually is change the graphic attributes of that particular rectangle, so it's a thin red line and no fill. So I might decide, that 8 foot by 8 foot actually works well for this space and works well for the sort of thing that the director is doing, that the actors are doing, fills the space nicely. I particularly like odd number of areas, focus areas that I'm using, so that actually there's always an area at center stage, and they go to either side. And in this case, actually 8 fits very nicely within the architecture. So once I've decided that, I'm actually going to get rid of that rectangle, go to my Spotlight tool set, and choose the focus point tool. And then come up and use the focus point properties. And here I have a choice. I want to show the focus point name. And then I get to choose a focus point shape. And you notice actually there are several choices here about sizes and shapes and so forth. including actually a custom one that I have done myself. So I have created actually a graphic. It's actually a three-dimensional graphic to represent a particular focus point that in this case is an 8-foot by 8-foot by 7-foot tall cube, if you will. Another space I work in quite often actually has a fixed height grid, and that space actually, because of the fixed height, my areas are usually 6'6", maybe cheat out to 7 feet in some cases. So in that space, actually, I've got another custom one that's a 7-foot by 7-foot by 7-foot square. So you can actually customize then the graphics that you can use for your focus points. So I'm going to choose mine here, tell that OK, and then I'm going to just place one down here in this corner for right now. It's going to ask me for the name. I'm going to call this area AA, and I'm using double A's because actually, well, you'll see why here shortly. It's asking me for a focus height, and this is rather important. Again, Vectorworks works in three-dimensional space, even though what we're looking at now and what we will end up with at the end of the day will be a two-dimensional representation. It still is working in three-dimensional space. So this is the first, that we're starting to set that up in terms of lighting instruments, and it's saying, okay, so where do you want to focus this particular light? And 5 foot actually might be a perfectly fine focus height, roughly shoulder height, for a normal actor that would be standing on the stage floor. So in this case, if I'm lighting the area on the stage floor here, I might leave that at 5 feet. However, if an actor came up on one of these platforms that's a little higher, if I was lighting at 5 foot, that would probably be a little low for an actor there. So in that case, I would change the focus height to be a little higher. But for me right now, for this one, I'm going to leave that, tell that OK. And it has now placed actually the focus area down here in the corner where I clicked. Okay, and it is. Let's zoom in on this a little bit here. We can actually now see, that this has got the focus area here. It's named AA, and actually all of this is changeable. We can change the font, change the size of the font, etc., so forth, so that we can actually customize this graphic to look like anything that we want it to look like. We do not have to accept the program defaults for that space, and it will continue to work exactly the same. So it is now set there, ready to go. If I was doing, I then would move on to the next focus space. If I was doing something like a dance concert or something that everything was on the floor, I could actually use the duplicate array tool here to populate the entire space quickly with focus areas. Or in a situation like this one, actually, I would probably do them more or less one at a time kind of situation, depending on the height of the platforms and those sort of things. So, however, I'm going to delete that because through the magic again of a saved view, we're going to just stick the sheet of vellum that I had already done all of the focus areas on. Just stick that right back into the document here, and you can see the placement there of focus areas for the particular space that we're going to use to light this. So now we've got the focus areas. The next thing I'm going to think about actually is lighting each of those. In order to do that, we're going to actually need to be able to hang lights somewhere. So the next thing that I'm going to want to do actually is to create positions to hang those lights. Vectorworks 2014 actually has introduced 2 new tools, a lighting pipe tool and a lighting pipe ladder tool that make what used to be a rather convoluted process to create positions now makes this very easy. So if I select the lighting pipe tool, for example, I can come up and set some properties. these have already been populated with things that I've chosen before, and notice actually including my class designations. So no, my pipes are going to be drawn with a medium lightweight line. Tick marks, which we'll look at in just a second, are drawn with the tech, which is the light red line. Lots of options here. I'm just going to tell that OK. And actually, one of the real benefits of the lighting pipe tool is that we can now draw a position easily, including actually doing curves. In previous versions of Vectorworks, actually doing a curved position, again, was very convoluted. In order to create a curve, it could be done. It was, but it was just not an easy sort of thing. With this new tool, actually, you can use any of the normal drawing sort of situations to actually draw what really a position looks like. The one I'm going to draw, actually, I'm just going to use the straight tool here, and I'm going to just draw this line. And you might notice I'm actually cheating. I'm snapping to a couple of points that I had previously placed in the drawing. Double-click there to create that. And if we look at our object info palette here now, we can see that this is a lighting pipe. Class and layer are listed there. X, Y, and Z are listed there, and all the stuff that we had chosen before actually is also listed on here. It's being drawn, with the medium weight line, and if we zoom into this, you can see that the way that I've done this, there's a tick mark every 18 inches. You can see it lining up with the grid. Actually, if I turn the grid off, you might see that better. So that on the pipe, there is actually now a tick mark at a user-definable space. I leave mine set at 18 inches, which is sort of industry standard distance apart for most lighting equipment. So this is now a lighting pipe. It is not quite a position yet. We still need to turn it into a position. Object conversion, convert to light position, and it now is first front of house position. Tell that OK. And it now has, helps if it's selected, thank you very much. Again, the sort of light position object is what it is now. X and Y position is there. Its Z height is 0. It's now set at 0, which actually means it's sitting on the floor. Not really a good sort of situation for a lighting position. So to find that Z height, what I might do is pop into my section drawing. Again, I'm using a saved view here to pop into my section drawing. First front of house position is here. I might grab my tape measure and click right there, come down to floor level, and I can see that that's basically 25 feet in the air. Escape out of that, use my, go back to my previous view, and in my object information palette, I'm going to tell that to be 25 feet in the air. Okay, position name is listed. There is actually one of the great things also in Vectorworks 2014 is position summaries and instrument summaries have been completely rewritten. In previous versions, the position summary actually was basically a useless piece of information. You could do some sort of things there, but you had no control over what it looked like, how pieces were ordered, etc., so forth. Now in this version, actually, you can have a whole lot of control over what it looks like. You can also create, and this is all handled through the instrument tool over here, which we will demonstrate this actually here in a little while. But it is a remarkable improvement actually over what used to be here. We can still number, decide how we want light position objects numbered, whether instruments are numbered starting at number 1, we increment from 1. Is it numbered right to left, left to right, top to bottom, bottom to top, etc., so forth. industry standard in this case. Actually, again, we're going to number right to left on this particular thing. And we can decide still also how multi-circuit instruments are numbered, whether cyc lights, for example, are numbered as either A1, A2, A3 is 3 cells, or 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, or 1A, 1B, 1C. We can choose on a per position basis actually how that is done. So some nice new things there then actually with the light position object from there. So and again, we'll come back and look at that some more, hopefully, as we're going to go through. I'm going to delete that because, once again, through this magic of a saved view, we'll slide the position sheet of vellum back in there where I've actually already created all of the, including, you might notice out here, some curved lighting positions out here in the front of house position. All right, so now we've got our areas that we're going to light. We've got our lighting positions, whether they're based on architecture or are added on a per show basis, whatever we can add those in, and we're actually now ready to start thinking about adding some lights. So if we were, for example, lighting area C right here, right dead center, I would start by figuring out, okay, where the light's going to come from for this particular angle. I would actually work this out ahead of time, figure out where they're going to go. For right now, I'm just going to grab the line tool and pull a line, and maybe with a nod to Stanley McCandless, we're going to say the front light coming in from this side is going to come in at a 45-degree angle. So if I draw the line here, then I know if I'm placing a light along this line focused at area C, that it's going to be coming in at a 45-degree angle. Okay. Now, so my next step then would actually be to get some lighting instrument symbols to represent the particular lights that we're going to hang in this space. So what I'm going to do is actually open my resource browser here, and already in this file actually there are several lighting instruments that I've already imported into this file. There are several places to get lighting instrument symbols. Some of these actually come from with the Vectorworks program, and to get to those ones, actually, we can browse a document and actually go to the libraries that come with Vectorworks. They are located in a library document that is installed with Vectorworks. Or I should say library documents, because there are hundreds of them. Not only every type of lighting equipment from all of the major manufacturers, but also furniture and all sorts of architectural elements, and things like gobo textures and so forth and so on as well come with the full designer package, at least, of Vectorworks. So there are also third-party symbols available, which I think if I thumb down here, actually some of these are actually soft symbol symbols, which are a third party. You can actually buy buy these symbols to use in your documents if you think that if they look better, if you like them better than the ones that are distributed with Vectorworks. The soft symbols in particular are designed to look more like old-style template use. They're very nice. I do use them occasionally for some sort of things. One of the things we should say about these symbols is that these are just the two-dimensional representation, but the symbols do include lots of information that is built in and comes with, if you will, each of these symbols. So it's not only the graphic representation, but also things like the beam angle and field angle of all of these instruments, candle power, the lamp that's in the instrument, the weight of the instrument, color frame size, all sorts of information that's provided by the manufacturer is actually part of each of these symbols. So very very nice to have. So looking at this, I might grab. I'm going to double click on this and actually make the ETC source for 19 degree here my active symbol. I can see it's the active symbol because it's listed down here in the bottom of the resource browser. And you may have noticed actually that when I did that, it automatically selected the instrument insertion tool from the tool set over here. And let's zoom in actually right here on this second front of house position. And I'm seeing my little tick marks, which give me my 18-inch spacing. So if I click right on that second front of house position, right, I'm going to actually start to place a lighting instrument. And you notice actually that it has just started to place it. I can actually rotate this instrument around and determine where it's actually going to point. Now there are sort of two schools of thought here. The first one says that, in fact, when you're drawing a light plot, the instrument wants to point at the area that you are focusing it in. So in that case, I might want to point my instrument at area C there. The second school of thought says that all instruments should be drawn at the 90-degree marks, i.e. the cardinal, either straight up and down or completely to the side, that sort of thing. I was always taught that you draw at 90 degrees, so I'm going to make that choice. And actually the second click then places the instrument into the drawing there. If we look at our object information palette, we can see this is a lighting device. Its class and layer is listed there. Notice the X and Y position. Notice the Z height. Right? Notice actually that it's picked up the fact that it's on the first front of house. So in fact, by placing it on the instrument on the position there, these two objects are talking to each other, and the light says, well, if I'm hung on the second front of house position and it's 25 feet in the air, then golly gee, I must be 25 feet in the air as well. So we can, they are now talking to each other back and forth there. As a matter of fact, as we continue to add instruments to this, and we then want to go back and add our position summary, it will sum the number of instruments that is on the that's on the pipe, whether the 19 degree, 26 degree, et cetera, so forth. Keep track of all of that. And in fact, if we have an inventory of lights, it will we can enter that information in. It will track the number of lights we're using versus the whole inventory. The position will also count the number of circuits that are needed. So we can follow that information through as well. So these things talking to each other actually shares a lot of information and makes this actually a pretty easy sort of process as we move forward. Now, if you look in the object information palette here too, you see a whole lot of other fields of information that is being tracked about each and every light that we're going to add into the plot. So, for example, the purpose of this, I might want to say that this is area C cool as the purpose. It's already filled in the position. As I turn on and off the auto numbering, it will add its own unit number, so I'm going to not fill that in. If this is area C cool, I might want to say that this is a Roscoe, I don't know, 65 as the color. Right? Dimmer and channel, actually, I usually add in much later in the process, but for today, let's sort of just put that in. Maybe this is dimmer 45, and this is channel 54. We can add the universe. Notice the focus. So the position up here, the purpose up here is just a text label. We want to make sure that this is actually related to focus area C here. So I might fill that in with a C to actually relate that to this. Now there is actually, if we come back to our lighting instrument and double click on it, we're going to get a dialog box that has a lot of the same information. Tells us the position, the channel, the dimmer we've added in, circuit number. The nice thing about this is actually this has for the focus, this has a drop down that will allow us to select the current focus points that we've already added into the document. And you might notice actually that as we add our 65 that it picks a suitable close color, takes the RGB value and translates it into what it can do on a computer so that the swatch of that actually matches the 65. Now there's a lot of other information actually in this dialog box that sort of follows the same information that's here. In the dialog box, actually, we can also, as we get a little further into this, if we want to, for example, set shutter cuts that will actually be visible on the document. For right now, let's actually pull that back out. And we can also actually specify particular user data that we can add specific fields or change specific fields to enter in any data that we particularly want to add. So all of that is just another way, and sometimes a better way, to get to the same information as the object info palette. The point is, with the focus here especially, we want to make sure that this light is related to this focus unit or focus area, so that they know that that will allow them to actually now share some data there as well. So now what that does allow also, though, is for us to be able to see some additional information. So I'm going to move this over here for the moment so that we can slide this down a little bit. And I think we're done with this line for the moment, so let's make that go away. So with this light actually focused at area C, and we've told that so, I can actually say, okay, let's see what that looks like. And what it has done is said, okay, so I'm a source forward 19 degree with these field angles and these beam angles, which is the information that comes with with the instrument, and I'm 25 feet in the air at a 45-degree angle. So what's the optics that actually will happen on the stage? And this then gives us a representation of the beam in the field from that light at this particular place, which is a very nice, actually, graphical representation of what we're actually seeing. Now, I unselected it so that you could actually see that one of the things it does here, too, is it projects the color of the gel that we've actually added in to the instrument. So if we change the color here, then actually it updates the color here as well. And in fact, if we wanted to, we could have that drawn. Let's go back to our 65 because that's much more interesting, as a 3D solid, which shows us a little bit, again, more graphically what we're actually covering. Right now we're looking at the beam at the focus point. We could say, okay, what does that look like also at the fall-off point, i.e., in this case, that's set to be 5 feet further down the line from our focus point, i.e., where is that hitting on the floor, basically. So a lot of information that we can see there, because these three objects actually are talking to each other and sharing information. And one of the things that I see, for example, if I'm lighting area C, this particular light is not covering that entire area. So I might want to see, make a decision about that. That's not quite the right light for this particular case. So I might go back to my resource browser and grab, say, the 26 degree, double click to make it the active symbol, and choose to replace with active symbol from the object information palette, it changes this to a 26 degree. All of the information about the 26 degree is shared. You can see actually that the beam angle and the field angle have changed, but none of the information that I added in has changed. So it has brought all of that information with it, made that change, and I can then say, well, you know, is this then a better choice for that throw than the 19? So, you know, the idea that we're actually seeing this information really does help us in terms of making decisions about the light as well. One of the new things in Vectorworks 2014 actually is that we can now not only see the beam in the horizontal state here, but also we can choose actually to see it vertically as well. So if I use a vertical beam, now of course we're looking at this in two-dimensional plan view, so we just see that as a line, but actually if we go to a right isometric, you can now see through this that we're seeing this beam and field actually as a vertical representation as well, again giving us a lot of information about this light at that distance, focused at that particular focus point. So lots of good information then is happening as these things are sharing sharing information back and forth between them. So the other thing that actually this would allow us to do is we can grab the photometer tool and pop a photometer into the space. And right now this is telling me that, for example, at elevation 0, i.e. on the floor, you know, this light at that distance is giving me 132 foot candles of light. This is at on the floor, as I said. We put our focus point at 5 foot, so if we move this up to 5 feet, you notice that updates and is now much brighter because it is sitting right at that focus point, and gives us information then about that. Now, in a theater, do I care, you know, whether there's 195 or close to 196 foot candles of light? Well, not really, but certainly anybody who's doing anything for the camera, this becomes very important information. And in fact, I can use this, you know, if I had another light that was put in here, and I move this over out of the beam into the field, to make sure that my next light over, actually in area D here, was covering this as well, so that we don't have any dark spots as we're moving across the stage. So you know, again, these sort of smart objects talking to each other and being able to share information and so forth gives us a lot of useful sort of information here. So very nice indeed. So let's get rid of that and come back to our light here. You know, we added actually a lot of information about this light into the database that is kept with each and every light. Might be kind of nice actually to see some of that information on and around the light itself. You know, if the beam's not on, of course, we don't actually know where this light is focused, don't know anything about its color or dimmer or channel, all of which is, you know, we're going to want to represent graphically. And we do that actually through applying a label legend to the particular light. So if I go up to my label legend manager, now you can see here actually that in this document I've already created actually many label legends for various purposes. You know, my 1/4 inch vertical is a legend that I use when I'm in 1/4 inch scale, and the light itself is vertical, as this one would happen to be. I've got one for 1/4 inch stage left, 1/4 inch stage right. So if it's pointing stage left, if it's pointing stage right, if it's horizontal, or in this case, this is actually for a scroller. So for any of these, actually, we can choose the particular fields of information that we want to be represented, that we want to actually see around the light. So in this case, right, I've got, I'm showing the purpose, I'm showing the unit number, the color, the dimmer, the channel, special notes and par orientation. This is not a par can, but if it was, then it could show the orientation, which I'd add in as a special field that you can see over here in the object info palette. I can also choose if these are right reading, i.e. it'll always be parallel to the bottom of the drawing or the right side of the drawing, which would be very nice for most things. For example, the unit number, the dimmer, and the channel, I would want those to always be right reading, to always line up, parallel, as I said, to the bottom or to the right. On the other hand, the color, I'm going to actually, in my practice, put the color in front of the light. And if I had chosen actually to rotate the light so that it points towards the area, I would actually want the color to also rotate with that. So I'm going to actually leave the color not checked as right reading in that particular case. Okay. Likewise, the purpose is not right reading, so it would rotate with that as well. We can also choose to add a container. If there's, for example, in my practice, I put a circle around my dimmer, I put a hexagon around my channel, and those two are, are built into the label legend itself. You can add additional whatever sort of container you want. One of the other ones I have is a hexagon that's rotated 1 point, which we'll show you here a little bit later, so that one of the points of the hexagon is always pointed towards the instrument. So those actually, the label legends for those have a different container. So you can choose that. We can choose now actually which symbol is being used in the instrument layout, which we'll go look at here in just a second, and we can choose to change that actually at any time through the course of using the label legend. So if we cancel this, we can then go edit where the layout of all of this information is around the instrument itself. And actually, we're not seeing any of these things because all of these, all of the labels and so forth are put into their own classes. So if we go to the navigation palette, we go to the classes, you can see here that actually all of these classes are turned off. So if I turn all those on, then you can see where all of these things are placed around this 19-degree instrument. So that you can see the color here is in the front, the dimmer and the channel are in the back. There are other fields around this particular thing. This is the way that it will display on or in our document as when we apply this to the particular instrument. So if we go back to our instrument, it's still selected there. Open the Object Information Palette. Again, new in 2014. We used to have to type this in, and you used to have to type it in exactly, or it would never work. Now we have a drop-down menu. Hooray! So I'm going to choose my 1/4 inch vertical. And then if we zoom in on this, you can see actually that it has placed all of that information around the light as we specified it in the label legend. Now, in prior versions, actually getting the placement of the dimmer and the channel and everything absolutely 100% accurate was painful at best, because what you had to do is set it in the label legend managers we just looked at, and then actually come back out to the document and pull it up and look at it, and oh no, that's not quite right, go back in, make changes in the label legend manager, come back out, apply it to the instrument, look at it, oh no, that's not quite right, etc., so forth. Was certainly not a fun sort of situation. In Vectorworks 2014, a new feature is actually we can start with an existing label legend like this. We can move any of these labels, which you were always able to do actually. You can, one at a time, completely change, customize where any of these particular labels were on a per instrument basis. which was very useful if instruments were really close together. For example, you could move things away so that you could still read them. But one of the nice things that we can actually do now is once we actually get these things lined up exactly where we may happen to want them, and we can zoom in and zoom out and look at exactly where things are. Once we've got that set the way that we like it, we can create a new label legend based on what we've done with that particular lighting device. And then, of course, have that legend available to us from then on. So that is just an incredible improvement that will certainly save me gobs and gobs of time. So that's one I'm really excited about. Now, I will say one of the nice things about label legends is they are resources. So actually, once you have them developed, you can, using the resource browser, import them and export them and move them around from one document to the rest. So once you have them set up, actually, then using them in other documents is very easy. As a matter of fact, if we pop in here, you can see I've got a folder of those here that I can import into other documents very easily. So now we can see all of the information about this light. We can make see what it's doing and where it is, and all of those sort of things. And we're then, of course, ready. We can zoom out and then choose where does our next light that's lighting area C go, and add that into the plot. And it's certainly not long before bada bing, it's all done. Don't we wish it was that easy? So what's our time? I haven't been even looking here. Oh, we're already at 3 o'clock, aren't we? Well, that means we're almost done, aren't we? So, well, let me just point out a couple of other things really quickly, then I guess, and then we'll take some questions, I reckon. Another neat new development in 2014 is, in fact, if we let me go to layer options, show snap, modify others. So, for example, if I select area C now. One of the new options is I can now select all of the lighting devices that are focused at that particular area, and now see all of them notated on the plot. That's a very nice improvement and makes life very easy in terms of figuring out where things are, and you can then actually deal with all 4 of those, in this case 4 lights that are noted as focused on area C in this plot. Individually from there, so that's always a nice thing. Another new thing that I'll point out very quickly here is that one of the other new things, if we can zoom in here, and I'll just pick something here quickly. Using accessories. Well, let's just grab this one and use it quickly. This is a scroller, of course. My accessory insertion tool became active. I'm just going to actually lay that here. This will rotate around just like our instruments will. Second click will place it. Third click on the instrument itself actually then relates the accessory to the lighting device. We can see this is listed here as an accessory, and it's connected with First Electric instrument number 2. All of that was just like it was before. If we move instrument number 2, then the accessory knows that it's going with it. It has bonded, if you will, with that instrument. So. The other nice thing, however, now is that if I decided, for example, that I wanted this accessory not to be on number 2, but to actually be on instrument number 3, before I would actually have to delete that and add an additional one into 3. So now what we can do new in 2014 is actually with that instrument, with that accessory selected, select the instrument and run the object conversion convert to accessory command, and it will now actually reassign that accessory to that particular light, so that it is now actually thinks it's part of that as opposed to connected with number 2 there. That I think also is going to be a big help here in the future. All right, so then once the plot is done, everything is hunky-dory. I'm going to want to copy this up from my design layers onto my sheet layers. Very simple to do. View, create viewport, and if this will then actually create a snapshot, if you will, of what I've done here, and I can choose which layer to put it on, including creating a new sheet layer or a new design layer, but in this case we're going to print, so we're going to take it to a sheet layer and go from there. We can choose what layers are visible, we can choose what classes are visible. Here's where we choose our scale. It'll default in all of these cases to what we're actually seeing on the screen. We're in our top plan view, which is our 2-dimensional view, and we tell this okay. I'm not going to at the moment because, of course, I've already done that because we've already seen that. So this actually is a viewport, and if we zoom in here a little bit just on this, you can see that the information here is being presented in the viewport. I've got some layers turned off, some layers visible, layer grade, and other layers visible here to create the look that I want. I've also got on the plot itself, I don't need, or the master electrician does not need to see, for example, the purpose field. That information is good when you're doing the plot, but not necessarily on the plot when the master electrician is hanging it. And the user fields are not being shown here as well. So we get to choose what information we're copying up and go from there. So at the end of the day, then all of that is copied up, and then we're actually ready to either print this, or these days most of this goes out the door as a PDF. I will mention again, 2014 has made some rather nice improvements in the printing. It's now actually even called Publish, so that we can choose actually in what format, including PDF and so forth, and how we're actually going to export all of that information. So we can print and or publish this as a PDF and ship it off to the production manager, and we're ready to go. So that's it. Didn't get to touch on Lightwrite, but the Lightwrite Association is still there, so information from the plot is still shared directly with Lightwrite back and forth. So that is still working as well as ever. And I think we'll just call that done, and we'll see about taking some questions. Yes?
All right, yeah, we do have some questions. I think overall the presentation has been pretty super in-depth. So we do have a few questions. I have one from Roz. Greg, you should be able to see this too.
Yeah, I'm just looking at those now. Yes.
There are a few questions from me as well. Let's see. Roz is curious as to how can we assign instrument data to the symbol itself. Yeah.
The fast answer is if you're using any of the instruments that come with the program, or from, for example, like soft symbols and so forth, all that data is there. If you are building your own symbol, so for example, for me, I'm sure there's the practicals, for example, are ones that I built myself. And when you actually create the symbol, you can, let's see if we can show this quickly, easily. We'll do the 2D. If nothing is selected, actually, you can then, in the object info palette, assign record formats to that symbol, and then enter information into that will travel with the symbol. So that's actually a pretty easy operation. So let's see. Am I using specific fonts for half-inch and quarter-inch? And I'm using specific sizes. So they do change. I think with the quarter-inch. My memory says this is probably either a 9-point or a 10-point. This font actually is a font called 2x4, which I like a lot. If you look at other instances of it, it does look handwritten, and it does have a sort of you can see where the what were they called? The registration lines were initially drawn. I think that's kind of cool. One of the things I do when I draft is, yes, it is communication. But I still want to have a sense of the style and so forth. So I find that font in particular seems to keep that hand-drawn kind of look. So it's a specific font, but then I use a specific size and specify that size actually in the label legend for it's different in half-inch and quarter-inch. So review that label legend bit. I'm not sure what bit we were talking about. Yay, label legend fixes. You got that right. I tell you what, that was a big bugaboo for me. The idea that we can actually now fix label legends in the document and then create a new label legend from that was just tremendous. So import and export with Archicad. Don't know. Here's everything that it'll import and export as. Certainly DXF, DWG. There were grand improvements actually in 2014 with import and export for those. I don't know what the format for Archicad is in particular, but I certainly don't see it listed here. Though there are a lot of things actually that you can sort of do. And I will say these are not the only. Actually, these are not the only import-export options. There are some others, but I don't see it right off the top of my head. So, and likewise, import. I'm going to assume have the same list. So. So that was fast and furious. I think I touched on almost everything I wanted to get. Did I get all the questions done?
I think I have one more, just one more,
okay.
One last one. If there's any other questions, just send them in to me, attendees. Just send it to me, and then I'll be sure to forward it to Greg, and then we can figure something out. Make sure it's all there. But there is one from Roz. Is the blended screen tool in Vectorworks 2013?
It is right here, indeed. As he says, it's it's in the tool set. Certainly with the standard theatrical sort of stuff, using the video screens and projection sort of information is not something that we do very often. But those tools are there, and they do work very well. They're actually programmed. They were originally third-party objects that were purchased basically and brought into Vectorworks as native, and are still kept up by the original programmers that work very well. I should say the lighting pipe and the lighting pipe ladder tool were also originally third-party developments that were brought in. Thank goodness. So.
Cool. Okay.
Another question? You had one?
Was there another one? Well, I'm getting a lot of hallelujah. I do. The ladder tool is great. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. and one of the other thing actually about the I didn't touch on it at all with these is especially with the ladder tool or any lighting position that is not a position pipe that's parallel to the floor. There is now also an option to do a reflected position on the floor thing for any of those positions. That's really smart as well. So that becomes very, very useful sort of stuff too. Certainly just a standard batten like we're using here, the reflected the reflected thing on the floor is exactly the same as what we see in the plot, but in many cases, actually, that can't be. Obvious example here, of course, are booms, where we're drawing them like these over here, as if it's laying down on the floor, but its reflected position looks more like this, and that is now completely possible. Without having to draw them a second time for all intents and purposes with the reflected floor option. So,
all right,
real nice improvements.
Cool, awesome. Okay, I just sent a message to Roz. I think overall I am just enjoying the enthusiasm for. I spelled that wrong, enthusiasm. But yeah, I'm just enjoying the enthusiasm that we're having from the attendees as well. And any further questions, what I'll do is I'll forward and format it to Greg and make sure that we both answer that, and we're going to share it as well. So if you guys have any other questions, just email me and I'll put you guys in contact with Greg. But I think Greg, I'll just take over here. You must be tired. I hope you had at least a sip of water before during this whole presentation.
Before starting, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm going to have one now too.
Cool. All right, so switching off right now. Let me know if you guys can see my screen. Yes, that's awesome. But yeah, on just behalf of NoVeg, on behalf of Greg, I want to thank everybody for attending today. This is a really cool presentation. You guys are going to get links in your email follow-ups after the presentation. And for those who didn't attend as well, to subscribe to our channels. And that way, that's the fastest way you guys can get the uploads, which should be up today. But if you guys want to pick up the latest version of Vectorworks Spotlight and RenderWorks 2014, you guys can head on over to noveg.com. We are one of the largest online design software stores. We have a huge assortment of design tools that cater to virtually every designer's need. So if this is something that you're looking at, you can email our sales specialist at Bob Dare at bob@noveg.com. And I do want to mention, too, I want to encourage everybody to check out Greg's book. If you like what he's talking about today, I think you guys will like you guys are probably going to enjoy what he has in the book. It's a quick reference guide for lighting designers who use Vectorworks Spotlight, especially 2014. I think the next edition is coming out, too, as well. So if you guys want to check out this book, Lightplot Deconstructed, head on over to noveg.com, and you guys can find it over there. Yes, we do have some questions. What I'll do is forward and format Greg as well, any other post-webinar questions, and we'll make sure to share them and answer them at our blog at blog.noveg.com. And we're currently revamping the website, our online community for Vectorworks users. So I do want to hear your feedback, see what kind of changes you guys would like to see at vectorworking.com, and yeah, it'll be great. Coming up next week, as part of our Vectorworks lineup webinars, Introduction to BIM with Vectorworks 2014. Jonathan Pickup of Archon CAD will be here. It's going to be detailed. It's going to be blast. It's going to be fun. If you guys want to check out this free webinar, you guys are more than welcome to sign up at noveg.com/webinar/90. And if you guys have any other questions, comments, or feedback, you can email me at kevin@noveg.com as well. Let's see, last but not least, the videos are coming out. We do have 2 channels on Vimeo and YouTube. You guys can find the video there, hopefully by today's end. And last of all, Greg, do you have any last words, any farewell messages before we sign off on this? Or
not really. I'd just say, feel free to contact me as well, either through hilmardesign.com or lightplotdeconstructed.com. Okay. Both will have links to get to me through those. So I'd be happy to I'd prefer to entertain questions through the blog so everybody can share, but I am available elsewhere as well.
Office hours. No, wait, no. Office hours are for students only. But yeah, like us on Facebook.com/noveg, and also you guys can follow us on Twitter as well at noveg. So yeah, thank you for joining us today. Have a good one. Ciao.